Evansville, Indiana. What an amazing, amazing city from every different walks of life. The north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side. West side churches are very difficult to start. But God had a different plan with this church called Catalyst. To God be the glory for all the great things that he had done. He brought a family, the Whitmore family, from sunny Florida, from a large church. After being a youth pastor, he brought the Whitmore family here and says, you're going to start a church with nobody supporting you, no financial backing. And you know what? You're going to go and you are going to be faithful to me. And I said, no. God said yes. So he won. So in Evansville, Indiana, started a church called Catalyst, but it didn't start just like any other church. We weren't immediately given a building, but we had a mission. And the mission was to be a church for people who don't do church. The whole mission from the very beginning is to make disciples of all nations, but also to take people from salvation moments into disciple making, not just steal people from other churches. Well, our goal was to connect people with God, others, and a service to create a connection point. And boy, did he. July 2010 through September 2010, Catalyst Church started to have information meetings and outreach opportunities for the community. In this little apartment here, we met and had Bible studies, and we vision casted with people that were kind of interested in this new church called Catalyst that was about to be established. For a few months, we were meeting and greeting. This was the epicenter of outreach, epicenter of ministry, and epicenter of Bible studies. I had no office yet, but we had an apartment. We had a place to stay. But sooner or later, we outgrew this space, and we needed a little bit more space. In October 2010, we moved from our little apartment into this clubhouse here. From this clubhouse, we had every other evening a time of worship and a time of vision casting again. And from this place, we had a opportunity to figure out who was really with us. What gifts have God given us? What abilities have God given us through the people that God has given us? Since the church is not a building, and it never has been a building, what people did God give us to be able to make his name known in the community and to serve this local community and around the world? But sooner or later, we ran out of space in the evening, and we had to move to a hotel ballroom. So we knew it was about time to start finding a semi-permanent location to start meeting on Sunday mornings. We had only been meeting on Sunday nights as of then, and we knew it was about time to go ahead and move into a semi-permanent location. Well, when I say permanent, we had a U-Haul trailer. That was the only permanent thing that we had, a U-Haul trailer filled with equipment and supplies, children's ministry, staging, lighting, and the whole American dream of church. So what we ended up doing is we started to rent on Sunday nights a little room here in the Fairfield Inn Hotel. Also, after moving out of that little room, we started to meet in the ballroom here at the Fairfield Inn. Catalyst Church was officially a portable church, and wow, it was a lot of work. This little meeting room became this third place that Catalyst Church started to meet. We outgrew our apartment, we outgrew the clubhouse, so we needed a little bit more of a semi-permanent location. So we started to rent out this little small room right here. Probably could fit about 30, maybe 40 people comfortably. From this little room in the Fairfield Inn, it was roughly about November of 2010, where we started to have a centralized hub that we rented out this space. From this place, we did Operation Christmas Drop-Off for the community. This little church became the foundational place of Operation Christmas Child on the whole west side. God was up to something great. We met, we greeted people, we vision casted, we had our Bible studies, had a little bit of music going on, but we knew that God was up to something more. So God was about to move us from this location on Sunday nights into Sunday morning worship services in the ballroom that's across the way. After we moved into the hotel ballroom, this room here became the children's ministry of our portable church of Catalyst. The Great Commission of Jesus Christ is relatively simple. Go make disciples of all nations and then baptize them. And at that moment, as the early church, we did not have a permanent location. We did not have a baptismal, but we had a heated swimming pool. So many people came to know Christ, and many people got baptized in this heated swimming pool. Wasn't God and isn't God good that even though we weren't a permanent location as of yet, He still provided a way for us to be obedient to Him and His Great Commission by baptizing in a heated swimming pool. So Catalyst Church, Portable Church, started to meet and started to have their worship services in this little, if you want to call it, ballroom. It's just a long room fitting about 100 so people in here. We had our light set up that hung up there. We had our sound system. We had our band. We had our stage up here. Behind me, we had coverings to cover the light coming in. And from this place is where we ended up having our very first worship services. In January 2011, we ended up having a practice services where all just friends and family came in. And then Sunday, the third Sunday of February 2011, we had a preview service so the public could come and say, what's this church all about? But then we had our first public gathering in this room where Jesus was glorified, the Holy Spirit was moving, and people came to know Christ even in our very, very first worship service. And it was fantastic. God was on the move, and God was doing something great in 2011. But we did not know what God was in store for. But what we did find out that on the west side of Evansville, church plants did not survive very long. So the community of Evansville saw what's called a portable church, and they're like, you know what? There's not some credibility built into that. So we knew that we had to do something, and God was about to do something. And boy, did He. So Catalyst Church had been meeting in the hotel ballroom for many months. It was roughly about 4 to 5 months, and we were getting really tired. We were getting really tired of waking up really early and then tearing down and going to lunch. And then, it was a very, very long day. But we were willing to do it. Why? Because that's what God had called us to be at that time, a portable church. And people were coming to know Christ. We were serving the community. Things were going great, but we were just tired. So we started to pray and said, hey, God, I know that the west side of Evansville is a unique group of people. And until we get a permanent location, are we really making that big of a difference? Then one day, God allowed one of my friends, a pastor friend, that actually started his church himself in this room here. And he contacted me and said, hey, we're about to move out of our rental permanent location into another church building that God had given them. We prayed about it. We came by and visited this room, and we're like, man, it's perfect. We just can't afford it. But God allowed us to step out on faith. So we ended up moving into this room right here where we had an office, where we had children's ministry. We had a permanent location. And we did not think that it was going to go any further than that, because the building that you see behind me that we are currently in, there was no attachment other than walking through the sidewalk. So we're like, okay, God, this is a temporary permanent location. But God started to do some great things in this little building with the church called Catalyst Church. And then we chose to end up having a block party right here in our little backyard here with the answer man behind us. The community service and the goals that we were about to have from here is where we actually started our food pantry. God had great plans, even through small little things, but God had a bigger plan that He had in store with this building and with this church. Well, Catalyst Church was slowly outgrowing our worship center, which is currently now our children's ministry backyard. We were outgrowing it. We were packing out people in here, and ultimately we needed a little bit more space. But first off, we could not afford it, number one, and we did not know where to go. So I remember it just like it was yesterday. The landlord came to me and said, hey, the bar owner in the middle of our building is about to move out, and would you like the space? And we said, well, how much? And he told me the price. And I said, absolutely not. We can't afford that. A few months later on, he came back to us and said, you know what? The price that you offered us, we will take, and we will include all utilities. And we said God was up to something. But we asked him, how can we get from this worship area, which is our children's ministry area, into the middle area? There was actually a wall right behind that door that leads to our current worship center. How do we get over to that? And he said, well, it's kind of blocked right now, and nobody really knows about it, but there's actually a pathway through there. All you have to do is knock down that wall. And we did. Now we had access to the middle area of our church building. God was up to something because God had allowed people to come to know Jesus, to be discipled, to be a part of the community called Catalyst Church, to serve the community of Evansville. God is and was up to something great. So we got the middle part of the Catalyst Church building. It was an old, nasty sports bar. Right here in the dead center, right here, right in our worship center, was a big old wrestling ring. When you walked on the floor, it was all sticky. There was a massive wall across this back way, and it's open now, but there's bathrooms right here. So if you sit in the back area, you're probably sitting in the old bathrooms. There was no door over there, so we put the stage over on that far corner, but we needed more room. So we started to meet in this area. Our children's ministry started to meet in the other side. We started to use this as our main entrance, and we end up having this as our coffee cafe. We may do. And if you know anything about Catalyst Church, we may do with what God has given us. So we had a team from Florida that came in, and many people from Catalyst Church came out and knocked out the walls and entered into this karaoke bar that was back there. Oh my gracious me. God was in the mood and the mode of transforming a building, but more importantly, he was in the mode and the mood to transform lives. And he allowed a building to transform lives, and it did not stop, and it will not stop. But God was up to something great. The landlord came up to me again and said, hey, now the strip club, now this area over here, which used to be a honky-tonk bar, this area over here, they're moving out too. Would you like to buy the building? And I'm like, buy the building? How can we afford to buy the building? Long story short is God said, buy the building. So we ended up doing research and planning and all these things to be able to own this building. But there was a major complication. Number one complication is, how do you access the coffee area, which we currently call it, and you'd be able to use this without a door? There wasn't a door. The door was actually right here, and it did not go. It went into the bar itself. So we were planning, we were thinking, how is this going to happen? How are we going to afford this? But we ran into a major snag with the state. So when we had an opportunity to purchase the building, we had a major snag with this portion of the building right here. This is the oldest part of the building. This A-framed wood roof was the issue. According to the law, a church could not be permitted to use this and to be in this and to use its permitting site changes. So we had to go all the way to the state, and it did not look good. We did not know what God was up to. He had planted us here. We had done some outreaches here. We were doing what God has called us to do, but the state was about to close us down and said, nope, you cannot have this building. But we're in the building. God approved the state and allowed the state to allow us to be able to move into this building. Now, the law has kind of changed in the state because of this building. God's good. So we ended up buying the building. Miraculously ended up buying 27,000 square foot of old industrial building and a bar and a nightclub and a bank. What in the world was going on? We came and we knew that God had a plan, but we did not know about this. We did not even know how to knock a hole in the wall, but we did. We did not know how the state was going to approve it or not. I remember walking into this room for the very first time. It was dark. Literally dark spiritually. You could walk along the floor and your feet would actually stick on this ground because of all the I'm afraid to find out what was on this ground from the bar and the strip club and the nightclub. But we walked on it with confidence, knowing that God had allowed us to have this building. By the grace of God and His purpose and His way, we prayer walked around this building because it was dark spiritually. And we knew that if God had allowed us to get this building, greater is He that is in us than he that is in this world, and the demonic forces that were trying to lay hold on this building. And we said, no, sir, this is God's building for His ministry and His great name. So we bought the building. We filled it with the love of Jesus. And in this room right here, our coffee cafe, many weddings and many activities have happened and many church functions have happened. But the biggest function that happens in this space is our food pantry. During the times where we have our food pantry, we have many people that come into this space where they're loved on and taking care of their physical needs, their emotional needs. We need to pray for them, share the gospel, disciple them, know them by name as they wait to get their food. And we serve them all the way back out into their vehicle or their bike that they're riding. With inside this room, we've had many opportunities to have Operation Christmas Child and outreaches and service projects and whatever God had planned. So God knew that the building wasn't the answer, but His kingdom was the answer. And we had the opportunity now to have a youth room, a children's ministry area, a worship center, basically a hub of ministry to equip the saints for the work of the ministry so that we can go back out into the community of Evansville and around the world to serve. And we know that the mission of Catalyst Church is just beginning. And you now get to be a part of this mission that God has. The next 10, 20, 30 years until Jesus comes back, may we as Catalyst Church connect people with God, others in His service to create a connection point, because we are real people with real lives and we believe Jesus Christ is the real answer. And how awesome it is that you and I get to be a part of answering the call to go make disciples of all nations. Be involved. Be connected and be a part of the next years to come, what God has planned here, not because of a building, because of His building of His kingdom through His great name to make disciples of all nations.